Hey everybody, welcome to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. I am John Clark. The Birds are winless in their first 3 games for the first time in 21 years. They're coming off a tie. Doug Peterson said it felt more like a loss. So they are desperate to win in San Francisco. Let's bring in Ike Reese and Mike Quick. And I'm going to start with you, Mike Quick. Eagles are desperate for a win. Obviously, the offense has been having problems. The main issue for me is the turnovers. 8 turnovers. 49ers have only turned it over once. How can the Eagles win this game and get their offense going?
Well, they have to continue to grind, John and Ike. You know, this is not a sprint. This thing is a marathon, and they have to make sure that they continue to grind. And I really believe that the unforced error is a huge problem. Jumping off sides, missed assignments, things like that. If they continue to do that, they're going to lose ball games. They're just not good enough to win games making the errors that they're making. But this is a team that's still in position. You look at the NFC East, they're still in it. So at the quarter pole, and we're just getting to the quarter pole, there's still a lot of football left to be played, and this team has an opportunity. It's not like they're getting beaten physically all the time, but if they can clean up the errors, the unforced errors, they still are in a good position.
And Ike Reese, obviously, they've had a banged-up offensive line. You're without Dallas Goedert and Jalen Reagor. Deshaun Jackson, we don't know about him. How much do these injuries on offense really affect the game plan and what they're able to do?
Well, big time. I mean, that's what the NFL is all about, playmakers, especially on the offensive side of the football. Unfortunately for the Eagles, they have a number of those guys that are injured right now, and they're going to have to rely on guys like they did last December. Listen, they have experience of playing this way. You have an experienced tight end, and Zach Ertz, he's going to be available for you. Greg Ward, I think, has really settled nicely into his role. And then Miles Sanders, a guy who I believe is one of the top backs in the league. You're going to have to start to feature these 3 guys more in the offense, very similar to what they did coming down the stretch. Obviously, this is a more difficult part of a schedule, and you have a longer time. Instead of just 4 games, you're looking at 13 games. Doug has to get creative, but they've been here before. They can do it again.
Yeah, and late last year, those 4 games, Carson Wentz didn't have any turnovers. We need to get back to seeing that Carson Wentz. And if they're going to work the middle of the field, they're going to have to watch out for somebody on that 49ers defense at all times. Here's Enemy Intel with Greg Cosell.
Hey guys, to your point, the 49ers will definitely have to focus on Zach Ertz, Greg Ward, and Miles Sanders. Those are the 3 players that the Eagles bring to the table for this game. Now, the 49ers have a lot of injuries on defense, but they still field some of the best players at their specific positions in the league. And one of those players is linebacker Fred Warner. He's 6'3", 235 pounds. He can do so many things, and the Niners ask him to do a lot of things. So we're going to start by looking at a play, an interception return for a touchdown against the Los Angeles Rams. Jared Goff was actually looking downfield, but this was man-to-man coverage, and Fred Warner had the back in the right flat. Goff came late to the back, and Warner, with just great recognition and understanding and great athleticism, jumped in front and picked it off and then went in for a touchdown. That's the kind of play Warner can make. Let's look at another play from 2019. And this one I really like, because you're going to see this. You're going to see Fred Warner mugged up in the A-gap at the line of scrimmage. But when he's there, that does not mean he's blitzing. Here, what he does is he drops out under the number 3 receiver. Just tremendous athleticism. These are the kinds of things Warner can do. But we're not done yet. We're going to go to last week against the Giants. This was at the end of the first half, and this is a route you're likely to see from the Eagles. It's a stick route from the tight end. We know Zach Ertz runs this route. Warner does a great job getting underneath the route. Now, it's not a great throw by Daniel Jones, but that's not the point. Again, you see Warner, recognition, understanding, making a very good play. Finally, and this may be my favorite play of all, it's a 3-by-1 set. So what happens here? Warner sees number 3 run vertically. Very often when number 3 runs vertically, it's part of what we call a dagger concept. So someone from outside of number 3 is going to run a dig underneath. Warner knows that. He does an unbelievable job of recognition, steps in front, probably should have had a pick. But other than that, that was an unbelievable play. So we really focused on Fred Warner for the simple reason that the Niners do have a lot of injuries, but Fred Warner is one of the most elite special linebackers in the NFL, and he's a player that the Eagles will have to be aware of in many different circumstances and down and distance situations.
Yeah, the Eagles have to watch out for Fred Warner and Quan Alexander there with the linebacking core of the 49ers. All right, Mike, quick. Doug Peterson talked this week about uncluttering the mind of Carson Wentz. And Carson leads the NFL in turnovers. Unclutter that mind. What does that mean?
John, it means several things. Well, he's got to be creative, first of all, and they've got to move Carson Wentz, roll him out, give him some of the things that he enjoys doing. When he's rolling out, when he's on the move, he seems to be very effective as a passer, and now his ability to run the football started to show up in that last game. But the tempo, he talked about the tempo offense and how it kind of eliminates a lot of things. It keeps things simple, and there are only a few plays when you go tempo, and I think it makes it easier for Carson to operate the offense when he can go to the line of scrimmage using tempo and just keep things moving the way he likes to keep things moving. But they have to establish the ground game. Be that Carson running the football or out of the backfield, they've got to be able to establish that they can run the football.
Yeah, they did run the football against the Bengals. Carson had the career-high 65 yards rushing. Of course, used his legs more. And then Miles Sanders, he's averaging 5 yards a carry over the last couple weeks, 95 yards in each game that he has played in. So what kind of runs can we see against the 49ers?
Well, when Doug talks about the creativity, John, I think if you go back to the first drive in the last week's game, you'll see some creativity. You'll see the way that they're able to split the defense basically in a run play. You've got basically 7 men in the box defensively. They're able to split this defense. You'll see the center and the guard pull left, but right away, Miles Sanders is going to sprint to the right side, out on the perimeter. You'll see only 2 defenders of that 7 on the right side, and they're able to split that defense, get Sanders out on the edge, and he uses his speed to pick up 14 yards. When you're creative like that, you can create plays in the run game. They have to be creative. This is a very good defense that they're going to face, but they have to get them going laterally and be able to hit them north-south, finding their holes when they're starting to spread this defense out.
Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. Pepsi, your new official soft drink of your Philadelphia Eagles. And by the Pennsylvania Lottery. Pick up your Eagles Fast Play ticket today. All right, one of the most encouraging things we saw from the Eagles against the Bengals, that defensive line got after it. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, they really got after Joe Burrow. 8 sacks, 18 quarterback hits. So Ike Reese, how encouraging was that? Because Brandon Graham says the defensive line has to be the engine for this team.
And he's exactly right. And as a former defensive player, how could you not enjoy what you saw last week when your defensive line is coming left, right, up the middle, attacking the quarterback the way that they were last week? We knew they would have an opportunity to be successful against this Bengals offensive line, and it was great to see that. They're going to need to continue that moving forward. And now, really, John, Mike, it's about taking the next step and trying to create turnovers off of those sacks. But it's a great starting point. They're going to need to continue that as it's an all hands on deck moving forward with this Eagles defense.
And Mike, quick, what were your takeaways from watching the defense against the Bengals?
Well, Ike's exactly right. The defensive line, they're the engine, and they really started the party. But on the back end, I thought they did an excellent job. Darius Big Play Slay, I thought he was outstanding. I thought Jim Schwartz called a pretty good game, trying to confuse the young quarterback Burrow. You know, there are many times you would see a 6-man front, but on the snap of the ball, you're backing 2 of those defenders off and they're getting in the throwing lanes and just creating problems. So I thought changing things up in the secondary, really disguising what their intentions were, I think that really aided in the fact that they had a sack party.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that sack party with the defensive line coach Matt Burt coming up. But now let's go for more enemy intel with Greg Cosell. How about that Kyle Shanahan offense, the most motion in the NFL?
When you face a Kyle Shanahan offense, there's much to prepare for. But one thing is a constant. You will get a heavy dose of base personnel, meaning 21 personnel with 2 backs, 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, and 22 personnel with 2 backs and 2 tight ends. Through 3 games, 65% of the 49ers offensive snaps have come out of base personnel. But they do a lot of very interesting things that you must be prepared for. Here's a play from last week against the Giants. Now this is going to end up being an orbit reverse by rookie Brandon Ayuk, but it's how they get to it that's fascinating. As I said, base personnel. This will be 21 personnel with fullback Kyle Juszczyk and tight end Ross Dwelley on the field. So what you're going to see here is Kendrick Bourne go in motion across the formation. But there's an alert pre-snap here before the ball snapped, and that's the alignment of Brandon Ayuk. He's in a reduced split. That should be an alert that there might be a jet sweep or an orbit reverse coming. The Eagles defense must be aware of that based on alignment and formation. So what you're going to get here is an orbit reverse, but let's see how they get to it. It's going to start with what looks like a gap scheme counter run with the right guard pulling and Juszczyk starting to work across the formation. So that's what it looks like. You also see counter steps by the back in the backfield, but it will be an orbit reverse. 2 things to look at. Look at Juszczyk pivot and wheel around because he'll be part of the lead blocking group here. And then of course there's Ayuk, who immediately works behind the quarterback. Look at Juszczyk just lay out Blake Martinez, the Giant linebacker, and Ayuk scores. This is extremely well done. It's a misdirection play. It's not a gimmick for the 49ers. Keep in mind, think back to the Super Bowl. They did this a number of times with Deebo Samuel. So for them, this is part of their misdirection concept and what they do. These are all things that the Eagles must be aware of because the 49ers, out of base personnel, are as multiple as any offense in the NFL.
Yeah, you saw from Greg there a lot of moving parts with this 49ers offense. Kyle Shanahan has the most shifts and motions in the NFL. So Ike Reese, what we're going to see from the 49ers offense, is this kind of a rerun and very similar to what the Eagles defense saw from the Rams offense?
Yeah, very similar, John, Mike. I mean, the fact they played the Rams a couple weeks ago, we know Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan have worked together. They're from a similar coaching tree, and they both love to take advantage of man coverage by giving you different things to have to worry about pre-snap and certain motions or jet fakes after the ball is snapped.
Yeah, and the Eagles defense, hopefully they can stay a little more disciplined this time, not get sucked in by that eye candy. Is there a specific play you think we could see again?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you go back a couple weeks ago to the Rams game and you watch what they were able to do multiple times out there. Just take a look at the play here. You're going to get play action fake to the front side of this formation from Jared Goff. And then you're going to get Tyler Higbee sneaking out on this route. He's already created separation from Nate Gary, and it makes it an easy pitch and catch throw for Jared Goff for this touchdown to Tyler Higbee. When you're facing offenses like the Rams or the 49ers, which are very similar, pre-snap recognition, especially when you're in man coverage, and being disciplined in your assignments is going to help you out a lot. You got to be able to keep your eyes on your luggage. That's what happened to Nate Gary on that play there. Just for a second, he took his eyes off of Tyler Higbee because of the play action fake, and the Rams were able to take advantage of it. When you watch the Shanahan offense, it operates very much like the Rams offense, and I don't care who's at quarterback, Garoppolo or Mullins. Both of those guys, because of the concepts, are very equipped and adept at being able to be efficient when running Kyle Shanahan's offense.
Welcome back, everybody, to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. How about the Eagles defensive line? They had 8 sacks against the Bengals. To break them down, here's the defensive line coach, Matt Burke. Here's Tape Study presented by Chickies and Pete's with our own Fran Duffy.
Well, joining us this week on Tape Study presented by Chickies and Pete's, Eagles defensive line coach and run game coordinator, Matt Burke. Matt, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Fran. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go through. There were 8 sacks, obviously, for the defense in Sunday's game against Cincinnati, and I thought we'd just break down a couple of them here. I thought there were a lot of interesting things to kind of talk about from a pure X's and O's standpoint, and I want to jump right in here. We're going to go to Derek Barnett's sack in the second quarter. We talked all week last week on Eagles Game Plan all about the Cincinnati Bengals and those empty sets, and I couldn't wait to see what your guys' game plan was for that, and we kind of get a sense of that here in the first half.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was an extensive part of what they do, and I think Barr was really good at kind of having a clear picture, reading the field, and kind of getting it opened up like that. So we knew Our just general game plan with the empty stuff was to kind of give him different looks. Like, we felt that they were going to empty to make him more comfortable, let him see everything declares quickly. So we had a lot of different checks and sort of pitches to just try to keep them off balance, because they did a really good job with their whole empty game plan. So this was one of the looks that we got into where we walked both those linebackers up in those A gaps just to try to force some things and try to feel how they were going to handle that look. Obviously, you know, we're showing a sort of 6-man pressure, if you will, with the 4 down and the 2 linebackers. So just trying to figure out, hey, what's your response going to be to this? So as you roll the tape, you see they check and bring that tight end in. So he steps down in, and I thought this was like a nice adjustment from Derek here. He sees that, and I think he has a sense that, okay, they're going to turn this and try to, like, they bring the 6th blocker in to pick the 6th up, so he feels that that tight end's kind of responsible for him in protection. So he widens back out just to try to give him some more space in there. And as you see, as this plays, it's exactly what happens. And there's just a lot of that inside space. Yeah, they all slide down. They're doubling Malik when that linebacker pops, but it really isolates Derek in space there and is able to utilize sort of this inside move here. You know, obviously a little bit more direct path to the quarterback.
So we're going to go now into overtime, and this was one of my favorite sacks of the game here, Coach, because to me there were so many different elements that made this play work. And you know, you guys in man coverage on this play, and one of my favorite terms that fans love to hear about, the green dog blitz, where a guy from the 2nd or 3rd level in man coverage is able to kind of read what's happening and insert himself into the pressure. Just kind of take us through what we're going to see here on this play.
Yeah, sure. You know, and obviously you guys saw from the game where, you know, Jay Mills had, you know, obviously a couple sacks or a sack and a half and some pressures and some hits, so that was a big element of what they were doing. You know, we're having some production in the pass game obviously up front, so it becomes a game where they start bringing extra blockers into the front here. So the tight end comes over, and as you play it on here, so it's play action, and essentially what they're trying to get here is, you can see there's essentially a double on Malik, double on BG, double on Fletch, and really that back has the option to chip out on Derek, so it could end up being a double on Derek with the tackle in the back. So they're trying to get 4 hands on each of our guys up front and to, you know, slow that down. And then obviously, you know, a lot of times these play action plays are deeper shots, so, you know, buy some time for that quarterback to set up and stretch those routes down the field. So Jalen's covering that tight end there, so your green dog may be more appropriate for the green goblin. But, you know, he sees as soon as that tight end makes contact with BG right there, he adds into the rush. So he puts himself in as in a rusher, saying, hey, guy that I'm covering is blocking, let me kind of bring that in there. So as you see, the receiver feels him coming and ends up coming off BG. So now, again, BG ends up with the one-on-one, whereas they're trying to get double teams on every guy here. Because of Jalen's aggressiveness to get into the rush, it frees BG up to get a one-on-one and is able to beat the tight end again here in protection.
To me, it's just one of those things where, like, everyone sees the final outcome, but if it weren't for Jalen Mills' ability to kind of insert himself, and now BG understanding, hey, now I've got this one-on-one, I've got to win whenever I've got that opportunity, it's just kind of cool to see all those different elements come together here on this play.
Certainly, and honestly, even all the other 3 guys, I mean, that's dirty work, you know, they're doing in terms of squeezing the pocket and fighting those double teams and just sort of making there's no open step-up lanes and stuff. So, yeah, it was a nice team sack there. Obviously, BG deserves a lot of credit, but got some help from the rest of the crew.
Welcome back, everybody, to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. We broke it down. We showed you how the underdog Eagles can beat the 49ers. The 49ers are favored even with all the injuries. Now, the 49ers defense is only giving up 15 points a game. They are also giving up the fewest yards per attempt and fewest yards per catch, but they were playing the Giants and the Jets. Just remember that. Eagles are in desperation mode for a win, and you can catch the kickoff show at 7:35 on PhiladelphiaEagles.com. We appreciate you watching. Enjoy the game. Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. Pepsi, your new official soft drink of your Philadelphia Eagles. And by the Pennsylvania Lottery. Pick up your Eagles Fast Play ticket today.